Hey guys, I'm back with an update about my Horner syndrome. I just want to say that I am completely healed and fully recovered from it. Praise God. Thank you, Jesus. This thing is finally over. Found out what the issue was about a year ago and started doing another process of healing with completely different things. And the doctors were completely off on what they thought it was. And when I was telling them to look into other things, they just kind of like brushed it off, didn't pay attention to it. So I basically like suffered for 3 years with this issue. And then I was randomly talking to somebody from my church, and they were like, "Hey, you know what? Doctors never check for parasites. You might want to look into that." And so next day I call my doctor and I'm like, "Hey, let's do a parasite test to see if I had some kind of infection." Because the whole time I was telling them that I believe it was an infection in my eye. And they were like, "No, you got Horner syndrome. Sometimes it just randomly happens to people. And, it is what it is. And if you want to get your eye fixed, you're going to have to get surgery to get your eye back to normal." So after I got my blood test done with my doctor, after I called him, they found out that I had traces that somewhere along the line I contacted toxoplasmosis. And that's an infection, like a parasitic infection that you get from cats. And so once that happened, they sent me into a toxicologist, and I was telling the toxicologist about, what that could have been. And he was still like brushing me off and saying like, "Oh no, like toxoplasmosis wouldn't last this long, and I don't believe it would make that effect." And so I was asking them for ivermectin because ivermectin heals parasites, and that's what the other person from my church was telling me about. And so I ended up going back to my eye doctor and asking him for ivermectin. And for some reason, all these doctors are freaked out about prescribing ivermectin to people. So finally, I got to at least talk him into giving me ivermectin cream, which you just put over your eye. And that's what I ended up doing. The ivermectin cream that the doctor gave me, he also prescribed antibiotics, and it was specifically for an eye infection. So after taking the antibiotics, they were pills. I think I took them for like 2 weeks. And so while I was taking the antibiotics, I was also using the ivermectin cream. It's a 1% ivermectin cream, and over my eyelid. You just make sure you didn't get it in your eye, but it was safe to put it through here and kind of just a little bit on the eyelid, because that's where the swelling was happening. Another thing, that when they were checking me after I told them I believed I had a parasitic infection, he looked for Demodex mites, and those are the mites that everybody has, that they live in your eyelashes. And so when you sleep at night, that's when they come out and like clean your eye and everything like that. But if you have an infection and they overpopulate, then they could start causing issues. And I think that's one of the other things that was happening as well too. So the ivermectin cream helped, and just again, after 2 weeks of taking the antibiotics and using this cream, like my eye got 50% better. I stopped taking the Upneek eye drops because I think they did help, to make it make my eye look better, but they weren't obviously not helping my eye heal. And I think taking the Upneek eye drops, they were probably also hindering the full recovery of my eye trying to recover on its own, because it was always looking for that morning drop. Even though my neurologists, like all four of them, I think that I've seen, all four of them told me that using the Upneeq eye drops wouldn't hinder my my eye recovering on its own. But I think it was probably causing it not to fully recover on its own. And so after I took the 2 weeks of the antibiotics, then I went to a feed store and got myself some ivermectin cream. And this is the edible one. Yes, the horse paste that you probably seen during the whole COVID times. Because doctors like freak out because I asked them for ivermectin pills for them to prescribe to me that I can take after the antibiotics, because I noticed how well that the antibiotics worked. And then they were just like, no, I think we're just gonna stick with the cream and see if anything gets better. And I'm talking about the topical cream. So I went and got myself the horse paste. It's easy to use. It's based on your weight. It's this little thing, and you just basically take like this much of the cream that comes out. Again, it's all based, your weight is on here. So obviously don't take this whole syringe. You're basically only taking like this little part right here that comes out. And I took this for, and I wasn't taking it. There's videos out there that talk about like taking it every day for 2 weeks and then stop for 2 weeks and then take it. But I wasn't doing that. I only took it once a week for 2 weeks. Then I took a 2-week break. Then I took it once again. And then I think I took like a month off. And then after a month, I did another 1 week, and then another 1 week. And then that was it. And then when I was taking the ivermectin, you're supposed to take like activated charcoal. That's another thing. So I took the ivermectin like around 12 p.m. And then around like 8 p.m. I would take 2 pills of activated charcoal. So it's a binder. There's videos out there that explains it probably better than I do. But when the parasites start getting killed off from the ivermectin, instead of like floating around everywhere through your body, the activated charcoal, the binder, helps it keep in one place. So when you dispose of it, you dispose of it all at once. Basically doesn't spread through your body. Yeah, again, the process took like, I don't know, 7 months to fully, like finally my eye fully functional and healed on its own. But yeah, again, no more. I haven't taken the Upneeq eye drops. I take just basic like B1 vitamin like a couple of times a week. It helps with your nervous system, but nothing crazy. No like medical pills or anything like that. So after 3 years of struggling, finally on the 4th year, I started an actual recovery that from information I got, not from a doctor. And in the 3 first years when I was dealing with this, I've probably seen like 10 or 12 doctors about it. All of them were completely wrong. And a guy that I talked to at my church, who owns a coffee shop, and I think this infection happened from coffee. Since it was toxoplasmosis, there's a coffee that is from Indonesia that is like, I don't remember the name of it, but it's like Katapua or something like that. It's basically like an exotic cat that eats the cherries, then poops it out, and then they take those pooped cherries, they burn them up, and then that's when they make the coffee out of them. So if you just Google cat poop coffee, you'll see what I'm talking about. But anyways, my sister, like 2 years prior to me getting this Horner syndrome, brought me a little sample pack when she was in Indonesia. And there were just beans. There were a pack of ground beans or not ground beans, full beans. And then one day I was at a coffee and I looked in my cupboard and I was like, oh yeah, I remember her bringing me these beans. So I used my grounder, ground them up, did a little pour over, had this coffee, didn't taste good at all. And then the next day I wake up with my eye just completely just gunked and red. And that's when the Horner syndrome started. So I was telling every single neurologist about it, every single doctor, that I thought it was due to this coffee because it literally happened the day after I drank it. And none of them were, and every single one of them were saying, no, it wasn't because of that. It's something that happened in your nervous system. And they were all completely wrong. And then the guy that owns that coffee shop was telling me it came from Indonesia. They probably don't have sanitized processing rules like we do here, depending on what farm that they came from. So he was like, I definitely recommend getting checked for a parasite infection, because he was like, that's the last thing that the doctors even want to look into here in the US. And lo and behold, I called my doctor for a parasitic test, and bam, they say, oh yeah, you have contacted toxoplasmosis. It's not in your system now, but you did have it. And so it was, obviously happened from that. And then when he sent me to a toxicologist, the toxicologist was trying to tell me, oh no, there's no way that that infection would still last this long in your body and would cause this eye issue. And they were all still trying to tell me that it was something that just happened in my nervous system that was causing that. And then after taking the antibiotics for the eye and then taking the ivermectin and using the ivermectin cream, boom, within like 3 months, it was gone. And then it just took another few months for my eye to get used to recovering and opening on its own. Because it started like when I'd wake up in the morning, it'd be fine, but throughout the day, it'd start like dropping a little bit more. The droopiness would start kicking in after like 3 hours, 4 hours. But then as long as time went on and I wasn't using the eye drops anymore to keep my eyelid open, it started getting stronger on its own after time, after a couple of months. It stayed open longer, and now it just stays open on its own like it's supposed to. So again, thank God that it's over. A lot of prayers, a lot of stress over this, but I'm finally healed from it. Today's actually February 23rd, 2026, and this happened on February 23rd, 2022 is when I woke up with that whole infected eye. So I don't know what your situation could be. Your situation could be completely different, but if you believe that it's something else and your doctors are wrong and you just feel it in your heart and in your mind that, they're incorrect, look at other options like I did. Because I never accepted what they were saying. I never believed them. Like my body just one day, hey, I'm going to stop working. I mean, I'm sure it happens, but I just didn't feel it in my heart that that's what happened with me. So I kept always looking for alternatives and looking into other options, and kind of just never gave up and just kept going till I finally got healed. So I hope this helps. I don't know what you're, obviously you could be dealing with. It could be a nerve issue, because some people that I've talked to that do have Horner syndrome, they had operations in their neck and then they got Horner's from that. Or they had really bad accidents where something in the nerve struck, or they maybe even did have a tumor, because that's what usually causes it. So that's completely different. Mine was from an infection that the doctors didn't even want to pay attention to, because it involved parasites. And again, that's something for some reason in the US doctors don't even look into. Nobody even brought it up in the first 3 years until I called my doctor and asked him to look into it. So I hope this helps. I know it's a lot of chatter. But yeah, that's my story. Well, I hope my story helps you guys out. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out, replying to the comments. And again, I'm not recommending you do anything that I did, but this is what worked for me after 3 years. You know, God finally answered my prayer and, led me to somebody that just made a recommendation to check on something, and that was it.